You know
Okay.
what I'm making the film about?
No.
About anti-Semitism.
Anti-Semitism, what's that mean?
It means when people hate the Jewish people.
No way, man. The Jewish people control the world.
Yeah?
Of course.
Being an Israeli Jew, I have never experienced anti-Semitism myself, but it's a phrase that always seems to be in the air. Three words seem to appear over and over again: Holocaust, Nazi, anti-Semitism. Living in a country that was founded to give the Jewish people a safe place to live in, I found this really disturbing. So I decided I wanted to learn more about the subject.
Ladies and gentlemen,
This is Abe Foxman, the head and face of the Anti-Defamation League.
I have been lucky to have survived by miracle the Shoah.
Very nice speech, very good.
The ADL is the biggest organization in the world fighting anti-Semitism, with a budget of over $70 million a year. Abe Foxman has become the symbol of the fight against anti-Semitism in the world today. I thought he might be able to open some doors for me. So I asked him to help me out with my film. Abe Foxman was very welcoming. I think he liked the idea of an Israeli filmmaker taking an interest in anti-Semitism, and he agreed to give me unprecedented access to his organization, which has its headquarters in Manhattan.
He's doing a film, which I still don't understand what it is, but we said yes, yes, and yes. You're on the record.
Got it.
Okay?
I'll be good.
Okay? He's not going to hurt us.
Great.
On the other hand, he's a good journalist, okay?
I'll take
He
care of
wants
it.
to get, good stuff.
Foxman introduced me to some of the senior staff at the headquarters.
You can talk to him, too.
Would you say the ADL is like the biggest Jewish organization dealing with anti-Semitism?
Oh, yes, yes, in the world. Yeah, there's no question about that. Yeah, certainly in the United States, but I would say in the world. We have all of our 27 offices all over the country with their ears to the railroad tracks. It starts with an insult, a denigrating statement, and at the very top, what you have is genocide. And in between is every bad thing that can happen to somebody.
This is my grandmother. She's over 90 years old and she lives in Jerusalem. I decided to tell her about the film I am making.
אני ישראלי, כן? אני אף פעם לא הרגשתי מה זה אנטישמיות. אז אני שואל מה זה בעצם, אני בא ומנסה להבין מה זה.
נו, אז עכשיו אתה יודע מה זה?
אני לומד.
אתה לומד. זו הסבתא שלך יפהפייה, זו אני.
Her family emigrated from Russia in the 19th century because of the strong Zionist ideology. The first Zionists came to Israel, or Palestine as it was then, because they thought it was the only solution to anti-Semitism.
אנחנו ציונים נלהבים. אנחנו לא נחליף את המדינה ולא נחליף את העם בשום פנים ואופן. לכן כשמדברים על דברים כאלה זה פוגע. זה מרגיז.
איזה דברים?
על יהודים, על אנטישמים, על הדברים כאלה.
אבל הם אומרים שיש שם הרבה אנטישמים.
איפה שמה? אז למה הם לא באים אם יש אנטישמים? אם יש אנטישמים, למה הם לא באים? עד שיהרגו אותם. מה?
אז למה באמת הם לא באים?
למה הם לא באים? הם אוהבים כסף, יהודי אוהב כסף. יהודי זה רמאי. יהודי זה רמאי. והוא עושה שם כסף, למה לא לבוא פה ולעבוד, אם הוא יכול לעשות שם כסף בלי לעבוד? למה לא?
שם הם לא עובדים?
הם לא עובדים, זה שאני אומרת. שם יש להם כסף בלי לעבוד, פה אם יעבדו, יצטרכו לעבוד.
איך יש להם כסף בלי לעבוד?
איך
איך יש להם כסף בלי לעבוד?
איך עשו כסף? ריבית, מלווה בריבית, ובתי מרזח פה, ויין פה, וזה שם. זה הם יודעים, יהודי יודע את הפוילשטיק האלה. יהודי יודע את הפוילשטיק האלה. אני אומרת לך, אני היהודייה האמיתית. לא כסף מסנוור אותי, שום דבר לא.
אבל את מדברת כמו האנטישמים, שאומרים על היהודים שהם לא עובדים והם עושים...
לא, אני לא מדברת. אני אומרת, הם רוצים להיות שם, שיפסם להם, עד שאולי יבוא מישהו, היטלר אחר ויהרוג אותם, יברחו. מה?
Tens of thousands of Israeli high school students fly to Poland each year to learn firsthand about the Holocaust, the worst genocide in human history and the most terrible result of anti-Semitism. When I was in high school in the late 80s, there were less than 500 kids going on this trip in the whole country. Today, there are more than 30,000. I decided to join them on their journey and their initial preparation, which takes place in Yad Vashem.
יש כאלה תאים של השריפה, זה למעלה זה שמכניסים את הגופה והלמטה זה החומרי בעירה. יצא להם גז מהמקלחת, יצא גז ציקלון B. פה אנחנו רואים כבר את הגופות. אותה שהם יצאו, הוציאו להם את השיני זהב מהשיניים.
ורוב מי שעשה את זה היו יהודים ששמו אותם בתוך המשרפות, את הגופות. כל אחד יגיד מה החיבור האישי שלו למסע, למה הוא רוצה לנסוע לפולין.
אני דור שלישי לניצולי שואה, ומהרגע הראשון שסבתא שלי סיפרה לי על סיפורים על השואה, ראיתי את המבט שלה, מבט שלא נסלח ולא נשכח. וראיתי מה היא מרגישה, אבל לא הרגשתי את זה גם. זה בעיקרון מה שאני רוצה להרגיש במסע, את התחושה של לא לסלוח ולא לשכוח.
The kids are going through a longer preparation for the trip to Poland. The school counselor is in charge of their mental preparation.
ותנסו באמת להבין את הקשר בין אז להיום. זאת אומרת, האנטישמיות זה דבר שלא נגמר. בעקבות השואה קמה מדינת ישראל, אבל האנטישמיות זה משהו שיש עד היום, וכל הזמן תקראו עיתונים, יש מקרים אנטישמיים לכל רחבי אירופה ובארצות נוספות. כך שאתם כיהודים, כדור העתיד, ככאלה שעובדים להתגייס לצבא, צריכים לפגוש גם את הצד הזה שלנו. מלבד זה יוצא איתכם גם מאבטחים, יוצאים איתכם מאבטחים, המאבטחים לא יאפשרו לכם ליצור שום קשר עם האוכלוסייה המקומית. נפגשו שם אנשים שלא אוהבים אותנו, תראו, לא אוהבים אותנו, תחשבו שאתם, סלי, גם היום, אני אומרת לכם שוב, גם היום לא אוהבים אותנו שם.
זה כאילו האיכות שלנו, שאתה יודע שאף אחד לא סובל אותך, אבל אתה גאה בזה.
כאילו מגדלים אותנו מגיל קטן על זה שאנחנו נדע שיש לנו שונאים. לא יודעת, על כל מיני דברים כאלה. ובעצם כשהילד יודע שיש לו שונאים, כאילו מה שקרה בשואה לדורות הקודמים שלו, אז זה גורם לך איזה סוג של כעס לצד השני, כאב, כעס, אפילו שנאה.
כולנו יודעים ששונאים יהודים. זה משהו שגם גדלנו איתו כזה, תמיד כזה השנאה והאנטישמיות. תמיד אני לא זוכרת שפעם לא הייתה אנטישמיות.
זה יחזק בי את הישראלית שבי, את הציונית שבי ואת היהודייה שבי. אין ספק.
Yediot Achronot is the most popular and influential newspaper in Israel. I'm curious about the people behind the reports of anti-Semitism I read on a daily basis.
אני יודע, זה מגוחך שאני אומר את זה, אבל כולם בעייתיים. צרפת היא אנטישמית, גרמניה היא אנטישמית, המדינות בדרום אמריקה הן אנטישמיות. אני לא רוצה לדבר על המדינות המוסלמיות, זה לא מדברים בכלל. הם למעשה כולם. ליטא נשארה אנטישמית, כל המדינות הבלטיות, אבל גם המדינות במערב, אנגליה היא אנטישמית. ללונדון יש ראש עיר אנטישמי מוצהר. זאת אומרת, הם כולם אנטישמים, רק כאמור, יש שקטים יותר ויש בוטים יותר. ולמה אני בכלל צריך להיות אובייקטיבי? הם היו אובייקטיביים? כלפינו לא, הם גם לא היו אובייקטיביים. מה זאת אומרת הסיפור הזה? אבל
בתור עיתונאי זה...
אין דבר כזה בתור עיתונאי. בוודאי שלא, לא במקרה כזה. בוודאי שלא במקרה הזה. מה קרה?
מה המספר?
172, 345.
זה מספר שאתה לא תשכח.
אני הולך איתו כבר 65 שנים. אבא היה באושוויץ 1, אני הייתי באושוויץ 3, ואמא הייתה באושוויץ 2 בבירקנאו.
Noach is over 80 years old and is making sure that the future generation of reporters will be just as committed as he is.
ירידה זה פחות כותרת מעלייה? פחות. אז עלייה זה טוב.
עלייה זה לא טוב, עלייה זה רע.
עלייה זה טוב לעיתון.
והנתון הזה מי ספק אותו?
זה הגיע מסקר של הליגה נגד השמצה בארצות הברית. בהחלט שווה לתת לזה מקום די נרחב בעיתון.
The headline in the Israeli paper was quite worrying. I wanted to see how the Anti-Defamation League actually fights anti-Semitism.
Where the hell is he? Where is everybody? Where's the secretary?
They're coming in now.
Thank you. They're going to come in. Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
Have a seat and say hello. Introduce yourself.
Joel Levy.
Hello, Yoav.
Yoav, very nice to meet you. Let me give you a card.
Thank you.
Okay.
No?
You don't have to button your...
Why not?
The working session.
Okay, so it's working.
So the reason I'm asked to sit with both of you is what looks like a spike in anti-Semitic and racist activities or manifestations. Now, New York seems to be at the center, or at least getting the attention. Where do you see it? How do you see it?
Well, I've had a lot of meetings with the police department and last week with the mayor to talk about this. There is a wave. There's no question about it.
I don't know if it's attached to the time of the year, maybe attached to the presidential election. I'm not quite sure why we're saying it here.
Do you have enough resources to deal with all this stuff?
No. We're flooded every day with these things all over the country. It's a very big problem.
According to the ADL reports from the last couple of years, the average number of anti-Semitic incidents in the US is around 1,500 a year. I'm hoping Joel Levy can help me find a case I'll be able to follow.
What we'd like to do is to follow a case.
I understand, yeah.
Because, every film needs like a drive. Once we have like a case that we can follow, so that would be great.
We're going over the fresh data collected over the last couple of weeks to see if there's anything I will be able to film.
We have received in the last week or so someone who employment case, someone who wasn't able to take days off for the holiday, someone who is a school teacher and wanted days off for Shavuot, someone who is a nursing student and had some issues with taking time off as well as with taking time off. We also got a phone call from someone who was complaining about a website that had anti-Semitic remarks on it. Someone who was complaining about an article in the newspaper who they thought had anti-Semitic undertones. And that seems to be the roundup.
And that's what we've had in the last 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Those are the kinds of incidents that we've had recently. 5 in 2 weeks. So there's no way to predict.
There wasn't anything suitable from the last 2 weeks. So Joel Levy tries to help me to find a case.
What they're looking for is an incident that they might be able, and they will do all the contact work, but an incident they might be able to follow, to actually see something that has happened, to go to the site, to talk to people there, to show what has happened, the impact on them, how we interact with all of that, and so on.
Assemblyman Hikind has a lot of Jewish voters in Brooklyn, and he suggested a case for me.
You know, I had a very interesting case. Just last week, a woman went to a funeral not too far from here, thousands of people, and she heard a police officer on the phone say something to someone else, something very derogatory about the Jew something to somebody. This woman was at the funeral, she heard this. She was so upset, she wrote me a letter, I could show you the letter, and she called me. Yeah. Okay. Is this the only letter? Yeah. Okay. You want me to read part of it to you? Actually, you could look at it. I overheard a very disturbing conversation that a policeman had on his cell phone. I heard him say very loudly, I wasn't even standing close to him, quote, "I'm just finishing this Jewish shit." Sorry for using this kind of language, but this is the exact quote. I was so offended by the vulgar language, which is never appropriate, etc. And she goes on. I made it that the police officer called the woman. He apologized on the telephone.
Hikind thought it was a good case, but the police wouldn't let the officer go on camera, and the Jewish woman seemed to be satisfied that the policeman had apologized. I realized that it might take some time to find a suitable case to film, and the kids had just finished their preparations, so I had to join them and fly to Poland. The man with the blanked out eyes is an Israeli Secret Service agent, whose identity we are not allowed to reveal.
במידה ועכשיו קורה איזה מצב ששומעים איזשהו פיצוץ, לא משנה כרגע מה שאני מבקש זה דבר ראשון, כולם לשבת או לשכב אפילו במעברים כמה שיותר מהר, בסדר?
Traveling around Poland today, it's hard to imagine what it must have looked like over 60 years ago. But the guides help the kids to visualize and feel how it was under the Nazi regime.
יסמין, את תהיי מבחינתנו המודל של אמא של דנקה, את תיכנסי מתחת למדרגות שם ליד העצים ואנחנו נצלם אותך.
הייתה ילדה בשם דנקה שהייתה גרה כאן, אוקיי? והגרמנים היו זורקים פה את היהודים מהחלון. היו זורקים אותם ואתה יודע, היו מתחבאים. אז לפי מה שהבנתי, אמא שלה נתפסה והיא ניצלה. מה היו עושים הגרמנים? היו זורקים אותם מהחלון פה, אתה רואה? כן? היו זורקים אותם ואת החפצים שלהם והיו מחפשים אותם כי היהודים היו מתחבאים מתחת לרחובות ובארונות. אני כאילו דנקה.
בגטו לובלין. גטו יהודי בעיר לובלин.
Израиль? No to mów po Izraelu, a nie tam gadasz po chińsku. Ja myślałem, że z Chin jesteście.
Kto gada? Izraelcianie?
Pytam się skąd, a dopiero jak powiedziałem z Izraela, no to powiedziałem, że tak.
English? הוא מדבר רעות על ישראל, הוא אמר שאנחנו כלבים. הבנתי. בואי כבר, מה את מדברת עם אחד כזה?
רוני.
למה התחלת לדבר?
רוני.
שומר עלינו מהאנטישמיות, כאילו שומר, שלא יבואו מתנגשים או כאילו יעשו לנו משהו בלי ש...
את חושבת שזה יכול לקרות?
כן, זה יכול. הרגע, היום בבוקר היינו 3 אנשים מבוגרים יחסית, שרק שמעו שאנחנו מסתכל ודפקו לי פרצופים ואמרו שאנחנו קופים וחמורים ועוד שנייה כאילו היה מכות שם.
הם לא אמרו שום דבר כזה.
לא?
לא?
הם כן.
לא?
Go to your rooms right now. Right now, go to your rooms. Right now.
Go to your room.
What happened here? What are you doing?
מעניין.
Excuse me. We are not vlog. We have some other guests here. I know that the kids, but you have to understand us. We have some other guests here. They're coming down and then they are staying there. We won't pay for it.
Although the days in the Poland trip are long and exhausting, the kids still have a lot of energy when they get back to the hotel.
Quiet, okay? But close the window and stay in your room, okay?
מה, למה אתם לא יוצאים?
Yes.
לא קשור לעייפות, מה, הייתי יוצאת. יש ניאו-נאצים, כאילו פה בפולין, שיש סכנה, יש לנו סכנה, כי נגיד הם יכולים לדפוק לנו בדלת בלי שנדע מי זה, ויכולים להתחיל לזרוק דברים מהחלון.
זה מה שנגיד הסבירו לנו בארוחת ערב, הביאו לנו תדרוך, שתכלס אנחנו לא במדינה אוהבת, אנחנו במדינה יחסית עוינת. נגיד אם יגלו איפה אנחנו עשינו לנו פה הפגנות בחוץ, או אבנים יזרקו עלינו, ונגיד לפני שבועיים נכנסו לי פה שיכורים כאילו ניאו-נאצים, התחילו לדפוק פה בדלתות וחיפשו יהודים. ככה כאילו הסבירו לנו אתמול בארוחת ערב.
מי הסביר?
השב"כ, תשמע, הוא דפוק, אנחנו אוכלים בסבבה, פתאום הבא יש לי כמה דברים בשיא העדינות. אתה רואה כזה, אחד כזה, אשכנזי חמוד כזה, פתאום מתחיל לדבר איתך על ניאו-נאצים וזה, כולם היו בשוק, לא יכלו לסיים את האוכל.
סך הכל בשביל הביטחון שלנו, אז כאילו, אסור לנו לצאת, ישר אחרי ארוחת ערב אנחנו צריכים להיכנס לחדרים.
למה?
כי הם אנטישמים.
הם לא הכי אוהבים אותנו.
בדיוק.
ישר אנחנו נכנסים לשדה תעופה, זה קולט שם חיילים, הולכים כמו משטר הנאצי. חיילים הולכים לך כזה ישר כזה, יש להם כזה פרצוף כזה רע כזה. אלה שדפקו לנו את הדרכונים שלנו, נראה כמו קציני אס-אס.
As the kids were facing anti-Semitism in Poland, or at least feeling that they were, a case was reported in Brooklyn that seemed suitable for the film. According to the report, a Lubavitcher Yeshiva school bus, full of young children, had been pelted with stones as it was making its rounds dropping off children. One of the stones had crashed through a window where one of the children was sleeping and landed in the aisle between the seats. A second stone broke a window and barely missed two other children. Two mothers witnessed the incident and gave descriptions of a group of black youths between the ages of 10 and 12.
So were you scared? Were you scared?
I was worried for the kids. I was worried for the kids more than for me.
But all of a sudden you heard like a big noise, how was it?
Big noise in two windows. Well,
So where's the back?
in the middle, on the side.
And the kids started to shout or what? No, they were quiet?
They were sleeping. The 3-year-old was sleeping on the bus.
Was going back from school. Crazy, huh?
Crown Heights is a mixed neighborhood of Jews and blacks. In 1991, there was a lot of tension between the two communities, leading to the Crown Heights riots, which went on for 3 days and resulted in many casualties. This is Binyamin Lifshitz, the local reporter in Crown Heights.
Maybe put your arms like,
Folded?
Yeah?
I'm not a poster boy.
He was the first to report the incident.
Not a big, strong guy. See, where the rocks went into the bus over there.
Wait, can you go back to that? And, I mean, most of the crime incidents in Crown Heights are targeted at Jews?
It's always been known throughout the course of history, Jews are soft targets. We've been the victims of so many major incidents, genocides and catastrophes and Holocausts and everything. It's just the way we are. We've always been victimized. When a black guy sees two people walking down the street, a black person and a Jewish person, his choice to attack someone will not be a black person. Because a black person, you never know. What is that guy? Does he carry a knife? Does he carry a gun? A Jew is a soft target. It's always been known like that, which is why we always encourage to walk in pairs, which is why we don't walk so much outside, like at night, so to speak, alone.
I thought I should speak with some of the blacks in the neighborhood to see what they feel about anti-Semitism.
I mean, like, there we interviewed this guy, and he told us it was going to be like a Jewish guy and a black guy walking in the street, and you know, somebody wants to rob, they would go for the Jewish guy because he's an easier target.
Actually, no, he's wrong. They would actually go for the black guy because you go for a Jewish guy, you get more time.
You get more
like
time.
the lawyers, the judges will actually give us more time if we rob someone of another race.
They're going to classify it as a hate crime.
That's why most blacks rob each other because you get less time.
So it's like a practical thing, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of wisdom behind it.
And honestly speaking, like, if you wanted to rob a Jewish person, like, why would you rob a Jewish person? Like, you don't never see them with nothing that would make you want to rob them. Like,
yeah, especially them up there. They basic, simple. They don't have nothing. And most people
like, how could you target out a Jew person, like, when all of them dress the same? Like, everybody dress the same. They all look the same. So,
and I lived around here 35 years. I have never seen a Jewish person get robbed in this neighborhood.
Never. But there are kind of incidents between blacks and Jews, right? There are some issues.
Well, it ain't really issues. It's like favoritism. They get treated better.
Yeah,
like, the police will treat them better.
Yes, they do.
If I'm arguing with a Jew, the cops gonna come to me. They're not gonna bother them. They're gonna think I'm the aggressor. They're not gonna think they're the aggressor because they already have like a perception that Jews are more holier than black people.
Let me tell you something, another thing, you know, they're supposed to be the chosen ones, but they be in a welfare office and a Section 8 office. They the first one to get any kind of bargain deal on anything. They're the first ones to get any kind of discount, or they know the system very well, okay? A lot of times they have all this money coming in the household, but somehow they always figure out a way to manage getting Section 8 or public assistance. Whatever services is available, trust me, the Jewish people are the first ones to find out about it. They're the first ones to utilize it.
Actually, they're part of the mind control system that they use through television and the media. The higher ups.
That right there is in a book called The Elders of the Protocols of Zion. That was in like 1898. They was talking about how the Jews will use TV and media and propaganda to control the world and take over the world. So little things like that just, oh man. Who wrote that book? It was a Russian who wrote that book too. Whoever's watching this, Elders of the Protocol of Zion, read it. It gives you an idea, the blueprint to take over the world. It is.
They're implementing it right now.
It's actually, when you read it, they say it's false. But when you read it, you see everything coming to light.
The Protocols of the Elders of Zion describes how a group of all Jews sit around the table plotting conspiracies to take over the world.
But that's considered to be like a really anti-Semitic book, you know.
It is anti-Semitic to a certain. It's really not anti-Semitic.
It's not anti-Semitic. It's like people keep saying things and they really don't know what they're talking about.
If somebody's telling the truth, if somebody's telling the truth about something, why does it have to be anti-Semitic? Because it's not in the Jewish people's favor. It's not anti-Semitic. It's just somebody being honest.
Facts is what it is. Bottom line.
No, but just to put things straight, like this book, the books of the elderly of Zion.
That was actually, they said it was written by a Jew actually. So it's really not anti-Semitic.
But this book was like kind of a fraud, you know?
Yeah, they say it's a fraud.
There wasn't such a thing, you know, it's like a bunch of people sitting together running the world, you know? This is kind of bullshit,
But
you
you
know?
said that's bullshit?
That is not true. This is like a false book.
That's not bullshit. As far as like a bunch of people sitting together running the world. The United Nations is a bunch of people sitting together running the world. So how could you say that's bullshit?
No, it's different, you know, because...
All right, so...
Exactly, there's no difference.
You said some like pretty harsh stuff about like, you know, Jewish people and stuff like that.
See, no.
Hold on, you gotta listen to what
let me finish. I mean, like, so maybe when they like see you guys on the streets and they feel like afraid or they feel tension, there is something, you know, like...
That goes to what I was telling you before. They don't know us. They never took time to get to know us. She was telling you that they separate themselves from us.
They don't want to know us.
So when you don't want to get to know someone, you would never...
Speaking,
you can't.
You're trying to manipulate the conversation.
No, I'm just asking.
No, because we told you we have no problem with them.
Hold on. First of all, why wouldn't we be afraid of them also? There's a misunderstanding and there's a lack of communication. How do we know that we're safe amongst them? I mean,
Talking with them made me realize that living in a mixed community can create a lot of tension that can be easily inflamed. I went to talk about the situation with Rabbi Hecht, one of the leaders of the Jewish community and Commissioner for Human Rights.
Even the attack on the school bus, not every time when somebody calls somebody with a name that you're a Jewish so-and-so or you're a black so-and-so, does that mean that I am a racist in heart or an anti-Semite anti-Semite in heart, or that I'm doing it only because of anti-Semitism. If 5 crimes happen, 5 blacks against 5 Jews, it has to be anti-Semitism. Why? Listen, even if the reason why I hit that Jewish kid is because I knew that he's not going to fight back, or the white woman in this neighborhood who's a Jewish woman, I stole her pocketbook because I know it's going to be easy prey. That's not called anti-Semitism. Now, again, you want to put it into some category and lock the guy up for a longer period of time because he saw a weak woman that he grabbed it. But again, I think we have gone a little too far.
Many of the anti-Semitic incidents reported by the ADL happen to Orthodox Jews, since they are the easiest to spot. So I was pretty surprised by Rabbi Hecht's response.
Let me tell you guys, I am suspicious when a guy makes a living from a particular situation. So if there's a particular film crew that make a living from blood, that's right. I'm suspicious every time they show blood. If a guy is created only because of anti-Semitism, I'm nervous about his reports. Are they accurate? He has to create a problem because he needs a job.
So you're saying, like, I mean, the ADL is not like a credible organization, or?
I really can't pass judgment on other organizations, so we'll leave it that way. I'll be politically correct. But listen, clearly the ADL has been responsible in certain areas to flare up things as much as they've helped. Of course, having said that, now I'm on the ADL's blacklist now, so Mr. Foxman is not going to come to my home for dinner, but what should I tell you?
An important part of the ADL's work are the international missions, and Foxman decided to allow me to join him. Every year, a few ADL board members and contributors get to join Foxman as he travels to various countries, meeting heads of state, politicians, and other influential people who can help in the fight against anti-Semitism. It's like an organized tour, but apart from visiting museums and other tourist attractions, the chosen ADL members get to join Foxman in taking an active part in the struggle against anti-Semitism.
You have to debate what is proportionate when someone attacks you.
You are serious people, and you're here for serious business, and you're going to see the Holy Father, and everything the ADL does is serious business.
The police escort along the way made me realize I was traveling with some pretty important people.
I'm seeing the Pope tomorrow. Rodi Friday.
Beautiful. How gorgeous.
I'm curious about how Mr. Foxman gets to meet all these important people. Why would all these ambassadors, politicians, and heads of state take the time to meet him?
It's their perception of the power of the Jewish community, which is one of those sides of the anti-Semitism, which is it's a very thin line, you know. They believe we are more powerful than we are. I've always said Jews are not as powerful as the Jews think we are, nor as powerful as our enemies think we are. We're somewhere in between. But they do believe, to some extent, that we can make a difference in Washington, and we're not going to convince them otherwise. So how do you fight this sinister, conspiratorial view of Jews without using it? Look, when the United Nations comes to its General Assembly, we meet with 40 heads of state, foreign ministers. Why?
I think I got it. It's like a poker game in which Foxman bluffs the other side into thinking that Jews have more influence and power in Washington than they really have. The downside is that the idea of Jews being so powerful can result in envy, even hate. Foxman has a very close relationship with the Israeli government.
All right. Oh yeah, a couple of times.
Israel relies on Foxman when it comes to issues of anti-Semitism. And being the Jewish state, anti-Semitism is always on the agenda.
Hello. Hi, Abe. I wanted to ask you, since we met last, about the issue of Venezuela. Because I heard voices kind of saying it's not so bad, and Latin America is not so bad, but I'm not convinced. And the question
You
is,
have good reason not to be convinced. You have good reason. It is getting worse.
Right.
And little by little, as long as oil money works.
I'm told that by our experts, it's the only, except for Iran, it's the only government-propagated anti-Semitism today around the world. It's already
Formally, right.
This is
First
quite scary.
within the country and then outside.
So are you pressing in any way?
We've talked to Jesse Jackson, who has a relationship, but it's not for camera, but there are other plans.
We'll talk about it in a minute.
So we have a very beautiful view here.
The first example of what Foxman is talking about was a meeting with a special advisor to the Ukrainian President Yushchenko. The Ukrainian government would like to distance itself from the embrace of the Russians and strengthen its ties with the West, most especially the United States. They believe that the Jews can become their allies in the US Congress.
We come to celebrate your democracy, but we also come with mixed feelings. The history of the Jewish people in this country is primarily one of tragedy. We would like to see a more active, a more aggressive approach to dealing with issues of anti-Semitism. It took a long...
Foxman is concerned about the Ukrainian government's comparison of the famine in the Ukraine before World War II with the Holocaust.
The one thing that you need to be sensitive about is not to link it with the Holocaust.
I know.
Be careful that it not be played as your genocide, our genocide, because that will be counterproductive on all sides.
We, of course, respect Holocaust, and I understood your message, and we try to be very, very diplomatic.
Here it is.
I was impressed by the way Foxman handled the meeting, but it also raised some questions for me.
She was kind of pushing him a little bit, huh?
He was kind of what?
Pushing him.
Yes, of course.
It's always like that? Yeah?
Of course.
I wasn't sure how bringing up things that had happened over 60 years ago had any relevance to fighting anti-Semitism today.
In order to combat it effectively, I think that you have to take responsibility for anything that happened in the past and then reach the present and then go forward.
With your husband, when you quarrel, sometimes you need to give some slack to get what you want.
No. I bring up everything from the past, 50 years, what his mother did. Absolutely not. No, that's not the American Jewish way. I don't know about the Israeli Jewish way.
Give them the guilt trip.
That's absolutely. We need to play on that guilt.
I asked when you're having a quarrel, whether she give you some slack sometimes to make up, but she said no.
I'm always wrong, and she's always right.
But wait a minute, do I ever forget anything in the past?
Never. Suzanne will tell me 20 years ago what I did wrong. If we have an argument now, but 20 years you did this. I said, but Suzanne, it was 20 years ago.
Wait a minute, but do you know why? Because he has not stood up and taken responsibility for that behavior.
The guilt trip she's giving you, does it help?
No.
So maybe the guilt trip we're giving them is not the right solution. Maybe we should give them some slack, say, okay, let's be friends. Not forget the past, but kind of be a little bit more,
moderate.
Yeah.
you know something, we happen to, I happen to
The
agree.
guilt of the father should not be visited on the guilt on the sons. And it's true, of course it's true.
I agree with you.
It's true, you have to.
You cannot let it go down, but you can't keep playing on it as heavily as some people do. It's got to be moderate.
But the ADL is like one of the people who plays quite heavily.
No, we're moderate.
No, ADL plays heavily. There is not a speech.
I'm feeling.
There is not a speech.
Show me you're not be careful.
I'm not talking to her. I'm not talking to her. What is he? What are you, Assad or something?
Democracy. We free democracy. We're allowed to say whatever we want.
I was fortunate.
Мои телефоны не забудьте ваши.
I'm passionate, believe me. Not quite as much. Okay.
I could understand Abe's sensitivity to the Holocaust being a survivor, and was moved by the support he received from the ADL mission members. But the film I wanted to make is about anti-Semitism today, and I decided to explore on my own an incident I had read about in the papers. In Moscow, a man with a knife had entered the synagogue and had started stabbing people. The incident was recorded on the security cameras.
Он увернулся от меня, ударил мне в шею.
Раздались истерические неестественные крики, как будто убивает человека. Мы все бросили монету и выбежали в дом.
The stabbing was a shocking reminder of what anti-Semitism can be. I thought I should speak with the members of the synagogue to see how they felt about their own safety.
В Израиле мы все время слышим, что есть очень сильный антисемитизм.
Где?
Здесь?
Неправда.
Что
Неправда.
неправда?
Этого
Что неправда?
нету. Ну нету. Ну нету, понимаете? Нет его. Потом, понимаете,
почему говорят в
многие
Израиле?
евреи сами виноваты. Вот представляете, вот он работает на заводе. И он плохо работает. И его не двигают по службе, не продвигают, карьеры нет. Он говорит, это потому что я еврей. Я говорю, ну я же тоже еврей, а я главный технолог завода. Как же тебя-то, нафиг, тебя антисемитизм, а ко мне нет?
А почему в Израиле говорят, что здесь очень сильный антисемитизм?
Ну что-то надо говорить. Ну что-то надо говорить, как-то себе надо оправдывать. И все свои неудачи в жизни человек это объясняет. Вот я был еврей, вот меня притесняли, вот мне не давали дорогу. Ну хорошо, ты приехал в Израиль. Там тебя никто не притесняет. Что ж ты здесь не продвинулся?
I didn't understand. How come these religious Jews, who go to the synagogue every day and are such easy targets for anti-Semites, don't seem so concerned about their personal safety? I decided to ask the local rabbi in Kiev about it.
The truth is that for some reason secular Jews are more worried about anti-Semitism than religious Jews, if you noticed. It's not that way. It's just that on their agenda of being Jewish, anti-Semitism is not part of being Jewish for an Orthodox Jew. Part of being Jewish is not fighting anti-Semitism. Part of being Jewish is practicing Judaism. There's no mitzvah in the Torah when you practice Judaism to fight anti-Semitism. At the same time, fighting anti-Semitism is something that's important for the Jewish people, for Jewish communities throughout the world. And very often, people that are not practicing, like you say, that's where they find their thing. So they'll, express their Jewish identity in a way that they'll be fighting anti-Semitism and thereby helping the community, in its fight for anti-Semitism.
The rabbi said that it is actually an issue of identity. I wanted to know if Suzanne and Harvey Prince would agree with this theory.
Yeah, I mean, you can't film this because,
I do think that the ADL helps to reinforce our Jewish identity because we're not Orthodox and we don't have a religious Jewish life. The ADL provides a forum to be Jewish. I mean, it certainly is 99.9% Jewish, and it gives us an opportunity to explore being Jewish, to look at Jewish issues, and it does reinforce our Jewish identity.